This fantastic project has researched in the wake of the eastern seaboard bushfires, and it really is relevant to what we are hoping. So my question is, the bushfire safety discussion paper suggests that any action taken by council to address fire risk through planning will have negative outcomes on the economy of the Shire. Was the context of the economic consequences of a catastrophic bushfire considered in making this decision?
Thank you very much, Ms Gibson. I would like to defer that question to probably the Manager for Planning, Mr Cuthbert. Would you mind answering that for me?
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Hi, Susan. So for the most part, planning mechanisms aimed at addressing bushfire risk do not have an unacceptable negative economic consequences. So what we're talking about there are the measures that the Shire already implement as part of the statewide bushfire planning framework. What the discussion paper looks at is what additional measures could be utilised over and above those existing requirements. And whilst the paper notes that there would be additional costs associated with some of the proposed measures, for example on home builders, it does not compare these costs against the significant costs resulting from a bushfire.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Next up we have Wendy Pole. Are you in the crowd there? Thank you. Name and address, thank you, before you commence.
Good afternoon, my name's Wendy Pole and I live at 153 Illawarra Avenue in Margaret River. My question, the Shire staff have prepared a bushfire safety discussion paper that recognises rezoning as an appropriate tool to change development outcomes to decrease risk. Given the known severe and extreme risk at the Narrabeen sites, isn't rezoning of these sites a priority to avoid a future catastrophe?
Thank you for that question, again in regards to our bushfire safety discussion paper. And again, I would like to defer to Mr Cuthbert to answer that on behalf of Council, please. Thanks.
Sure. So what the discussion paper actually finds is that the available metrics, that's the things that we have that enable us to be able to assess the workability of these various measures, are not able to confirm whether or not the changes, such as a change to the zoning of land, would reduce risk and by how much. So the paper also notes that a recent review of zoning undertaken as a component of preparing a new local planning scheme did not change the zoning of sites at Narrabeen to any substantial extent. The Shire's priority, which you've asked about at this present time, with respect to development at Narrabeen, is to continue to participate in the development assessment process which is being administered by the state government to ensure that bushfire is given the highest possible regard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question from Sarah Males. Are you there, Sarah? Thank you.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name's Sarah Males. I live at 4 Red Gum Court in Margaret River. My question today is also about the bushfire paper and how the paper assesses all of the discussed planning options as having negative outcomes on the social fabric of the community. How would the prevention, and this question's a bit wordy, sorry, how would the prevention of building a massive resort and village at Narrabeen due to the fire risk damage the social fabric of the community? In fact, there's been and continues to be overwhelming community opposition to this development, and has this strong local sentiment been considered when concluding that the prevention due to fire risk would have a net negative outcome?
Thank you for that question, Ms Males. And again, I think I'll defer that one to yourself, Mr Cuthbert, if you don't mind. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So the discussion paper has not been prepared with a view to prevent the Narrabeen development, and nor could it. The discussion paper does not conclude that preventing the Narrabeen development would be a net negative outcome. In fact, the discussion paper does not make any recommendations about the societal consequences of approving or refusing the development, as that was not the purpose of preparing the discussion paper.
Thank you, Mr Cuthbert. Thank you for your question. I also have a question from Claudia Saventi, please.
Hi, Claudia Saventi, 568 Carters Road, Burnside. It seems we have sufficient warning of the catastrophic potential for fire on our coastal hamlets and other settlements in the Shire. Does the council support rezoning inappropriately zoned properties to avoid worsening the future risk to the community of impacts by wildfires?
Thank you for your question. I can certainly say that council supports taking responsible and evidence-based action to continuously reduce unacceptable fire risk to our community. However, council does not currently have any information before it which would identify sites which are inappropriately zoned, or any information which would show how rezoning them would avoid worsening the future risks of bushfire to the community. And further, as the bushfire discussion paper sets out that we're considering tonight, there is serious doubt over whether rezoning amendments would be supported, particularly in the absence of strong landowner and, most importantly, state government support necessary, given that the Minister for Planning and not the Shire decides whether to approve amendments. So ultimately, it's out of our approval remit as to whether those rezonings would actually occur or not. So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
I believe there's a question from Lynn Saventi, please.
Good afternoon. Lynn Saventi, 13 Stewart Street, Margaret River. Council's got a rezoning motion, Amendment 70, which I think was passed through in 2021 or something like that, for the Narrabeen village lots, waiting for the completion of the EPA process. The intent of the proposed tourism zoning of Amendment 17 has now been undermined by the current development proposal for unlimited length of stay for all the proposed units in the village, effectively making it a high-density residential development. Will Council consider changing proposed Amendment 70 to a special use / low density residential zoning to protect the site from inappropriate high density development? Will Amendment 70 be progressed as soon as the EPA process concludes to allow the community to have a say about what zoning they support for the Narrabeen sites through the public comment period? Will the Council consider all of the matters required to be given due regard in decision-making under Section 67(2) of the deemed provisions? Sorry, I lost my way there. When they make the above decisions, including the following specific considerations. Point N, the amenity of the locality, including the following: environmental impacts of the development, the character of the locality, the social impacts of the development. Point O, the likely effect of the development on the natural environment or water resources, and any means that are proposed to protect or to mitigate impacts on the natural environment or the water resource. P, whether adequate provision has been made for the landscaping of the land to which the application relates, and whether any trees or other vegetation on the land should be preserved. Q, the suitability of the land for the development, taking into account the possible risk of flooding, tidal inundation, subsidence, landslip, bushfire, soil erosion, land degradation, or any other risk. R, the suitability of the land for the development, taking into account the possible risk to human health or safety. S, the adequacy of the proposed means of access to and egress from the site. And 2, arrangements for the loading, unloading, manoeuvring and parking of vehicles. And then T, the amount of traffic likely to be generated by the development, particularly in relation to the capacity of the road system in the locality and the probable effect on traffic flow and safety.
Thank you, Lynn, for your 3 questions, and I believe you might have an additional one. Yes, that is an extensive question, but just to sum it up, really, following the conclusion of the caretakers period, which we're about to enter, given that there's elections coming up, and also the finalisation of the EPA process. Additionally, once LPS 2 has come into effect, the council will need to consider how to progress the intent of Amendment 70. And given that that Amendment 70, was initiated with strong encouragement from Preserve Narrabri, it would be most useful for the group to confirm its position in writing, please, to council as to whether there is support for the amendment progressing in its current form. The items outlined in clause 67 of the deemed provisions relate to development and not scheme amendments, actually. So that would be great if you could, in a nutshell, provide your position in writing as to the intent of Amendment 70.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Okay, I now also have a question from Jean-Baptiste Lemarie. Thank you.
Hello, thanks for having me. So my name is Jean-Baptiste Lemery. I live at 166 Bushby Road in Carrydale. So my question today is this one. The state development assessment process has been rightly criticized by the Shire President. Will the Council demonstrate their opposition to planning being carried out without the involvement of local decision makers by articulating a clear vision for the future of Narrabri and initiating a scheme amendment to rezone the site to a more appropriate, limited residential use? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So in regards to that, Council recently considered the suitability of zoning across the Shire by way of the draft LPS 2, and no substantive changes to the zoning of the land in Narrabri was pursued via that process. There are no plans currently being considered for rezoning land in Narrabri beyond that proposed by Amendment 70. And just to reinforce our previous position, even if that was to be pursued, the WAPC and the Minister has the ultimate say in A, whether to advertise a rezoning, and B, whether to that's the first step, of course, and then, of course, to conclude that by actually doing the zoning change. So ultimately, it's out of our hands. Whilst we may have the ability to initiate a rezoning, we will not be the final decision makers. So thank you for your question. I have another question from Iona Beryl. Yeah, the right hand. Thank you.
Iona Beryl, 10 Merchant Street, Margaret River. The report before Council on the bushfire safety discussion paper claims that, quote, DFES routinely recommends refusal of development and often for reasons which are at odds with the guidelines. This appears to be a serious allegation against a referral agency. implying they do not carry out their job competently or accurately. Is there any evidence to substantiate this claim? Can this evidence be provided so the community can understand the context around the culture of fire planning within the AMR Shire?
Thank you for your question, and that one I would actually like to defer again to Mr Cuthbert, please, if you could answer that on behalf of council.
Sure, yep, thank you. So the quote that you read out, that statement, is neither an allegation nor a comment about the agency's competency. Like you, we would be concerned if baseless allegations were being made about either Shire staff or the government officials which we work closely with to achieve positive outcomes for the community. Unfortunately, this does happen on a routine basis. Information is available on the public record by way of council minutes and the minutes of the delegated decisions which we make, and they're on the Shire's website, which in addition to the reports such as those on the agenda today, demonstrate the seriousness with which the Shire treats the threat of bushfire and the variety of ways which the Shire's commitment to improving community resilience to bushfire is demonstrated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. I'll just finally call for any further questions from the public. No? All right, then we shall move now into item 5, which is applications for leave of absence, and I believe Councillor Duff has a application for leave of absence.
Yeah, just for the September OCM.
For the September OCM, I'm happy to move that for you, and Councillor Muir to second that. Let's put that to the vote, councillors. That's carried unanimously. Great.
If I'm allowed to.
Enjoy your time off, Councillor Duff. Just wait for the students. Thanks for coming today, students. Thank you so much. See you next year. Councillors, the next item on the agenda is item 6, confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting, and that's the OCM on the 23rd of July. Do I have a councillor to move that? Councillor Boland, Councillor Earl to second that. Let's put that to the vote, councillors. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And next item on the agenda is deputations, item 7. So I've had 3 permitted deputations. The first one is from Mark McDonald on item 3.1. Sorry, on item 11.3.1 AMR Speedway lease extension request. If you could please come up and give your deputation and stating your name and address at the commencement. Thank you very much.
My name is Mark McDonald, 54 Glenview Drive in Vass. Good afternoon, councillors. I'm representing the Augusta Margaret Speedway Club. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today on behalf of the many dedicated and passionate volunteers and members that make up our wonderful Speedway Club. The Speedway has been operating in its current location since 1964 and is an iconic venue for the Margaret River region. Generations of local families have been involved in the continual evolution and improvement of the club and its facilities. It is one of the few long-standing recreational venues that has remained consistent in providing low-cost entertainment for the locals and visitors, volunteer opportunities and a safe, welcoming, family-friendly environment. Its longevity and continued popularity reflect its importance to the region and the community. The Speedway plays a pivotal role in youth engagement in a time where rural and regional towns like ours are facing increased issues related to youth disconnection, mental health awareness, and the Speedway provides a positive, structured and all-inclusive supportive environment for young people to enjoy. We are now seeing third-generation kids coming and racing with the club, while their parents and families continue to be involved and support this fantastic sport. The Speedway generates significant economic activity for the town and surrounding businesses. The events we hold from October to May attract hundreds of competitors and their families to our region, and this is seen by the packed venue of local and visiting spectators on any one of our racing nights. The Speedway itself, the facility itself, is in need of critical infrastructure upgrades in the near future to maintain the safety and enjoyment of the venue for competitors and spectators. The current lease that expires on the 31st of December 2027 creates uncertainty for the club and hampers our ability to plan and implement the infrastructure upgrades that we desperately need. The club is unable to apply for government sporting grants or long-term sponsorship arrangements, as many bodies require proof of tenure or security of the club's longevity. The lease extension of 10 years, when the current lease expires, will allow us to make strategic investments, improve safety, and the ability to explore opportunities where the facility can be co-used by other community organisations. In conclusion, the Augusta Margaret River Speedway is more than a venue. It is a generational community volunteer organisation run by dedicated and passionate individuals for the enjoyment of all. We respectfully request that the Council support the extension of the Speedway's lease so that we can continue to be involved in our community, plan for the future and remain a proud part of the Margaret River identity. Thank you for your time, your consideration and your commitment to supporting volunteer community organisations such as ours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, are there any questions for the Deputy? Councillor Muir, then Councillor Earl.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you coming today to give a deputation. It's really important we hear about the operation of the Speedway. It's much loved in our community. I'm really interested in terms of the opportunity for sublease and how you feel like that might work, because obviously there's some things that need to be there in safety considerations. I just wondered if you'd put any thought to how that could eventuate.
Yeah, so in the past, we've been very restricted by the lease wording, where Speedway was the only activity that was allowed to be undertaken at the venue. We've been in discussions with the Shire over the last 12 months, and we completely understand the need to be able to co-share our facility with other community groups. We realise that this will help us go a long way to attract the funding that we need for our upgrades, and we are once we can get this in writing that we can open the facility up to other groups and other activities, then we are more than likely would like to have other groups on board to share the facilities, help upgrade the facilities, help generate an income and yeah, enjoy the beautiful spot where it is.
Councillor Earl.
Yeah, thanks for the deputation, Mark. You're comfortable with the recommendation by the officers?
Yes, no, we're very comfortable with how the discussions have been over the last 12 months. We've been eagerly awaiting this moment so that we can progress with our planning and grant submissions that will be coming up very soon. So, yeah, we'd really like to have a resolution as soon as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thank you for your deputation. And yeah, I was just wondering who wrote your strategic plan, because that was quite a big, lengthy document and there's a lot of really good stuff in that. And I'd just like to congratulate whoever wrote it, and wonder if it was actually volunteers who put that together.
Thanks. Yeah, I wrote that myself over many months. I've only been involved in the Speedway for about 4 years. I've always wanted to do it, but I never had the time or the money. Now I've got a bit of both. And I'm vice president of the club, and I've seen what upgrades and what is needed for that club. Seeing the people that are involved there and wanting to get behind them and support them. There's a lot of work to do there. We know there's a lot of work to do there, but we're a committed group of people that are really wanting to get to the next step.
Any further questions? Councillor Boland.
Yes, thanks for your presentation. Noise is quite an issue from the site, and you've got a noise exemption, the only one on a racetrack in WA apparently. I was wondering that the noise would come from the type of vehicles that are raced there. Have you given consideration to the vehicles that race there being much quieter, say electric vehicles?
Yeah, look, we see that probably coming in the future, not for a fair while, because I see the danger with the electric vehicles and lithium batteries, as we all well know, as they're very explosive. So the cars themselves, we go through rigorous sound testing at the beginning of every season, where we get an auditor to come down and set up sound testing equipment. We have cars running around the track, make sure that the cars are within the sound limits that are allowable and acceptable. And we also have, twice a year, when we have certain divisions like sprint cars and super sedans, we have further noise testing out in Basildine Manor and at another residential place where we check the sound readings from them. And from what I can gather, the sounds have been, within the parameters that we're allowed to. And I think we've had probably one or two very minor and factually incorrect complaints over the last few years. So look, the noise, it's only for a five-hour window between midday and 10 p.m. We've got a 10 p.m. curfew that we religiously uphold. Even if the event's halfway through a race, we will shut the meeting down just to comply with that order. It doesn't suit us as well, that order, in those regards. We don't have any flexibility to finish a race at 5 minutes past 10. So it goes both ways for the club and for the community as well.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. I'll call the next deputy, which is Pamela Winter, in regards to item 11.3.3.
I thought it was at the end, so I've got a jelly bean in my mouth. Good afternoon, my name is Pamela Catherine Winter of 13685 Bustle Highway, Augusta. I operate an awarded ecotourism certified accommodation experience here in Augusta. Today, I speak in support of amalgamating a portion of Reserve 37811 with Reserve 27643, the commercial zone of the Ellis Street Precinct Plan. Why? Because amalgamation will finally allow responsible management for this important precinct. The report, thank you, Shire, shows strong community support. Objections have been addressed. What we are really talking about is fixing an administration anomaly that has held the precinct back for years. Now's the right time. The applicant has already shown commitment. In 23, working with the Shire, they funded and organised over $40,000 worth of retaining wall repairs to the reserve, with Shire in keeping with Shire work orders. And before that work, the precinct was derelict, it was dangerous and a real liability. Those private efforts made it safe again for boat hire patrons and the public. This is the type of responsible management Ellis Street deserves, and it's bigger than Augusta. Proper management here is a key pillar in lifting Western Australians' reputation for unique, immersive experiences, exactly what the Waves 2033 strategy is calling for. With clear governance, Ellis Street can become a vibrant public space that also activates local business. It's a win for residents, visitors, the Shire and the environment. Amalgamating these reserves will also reduce future governance burdens. It creates clarity, it creates accountability, and it secures long-term sustainability for all stakeholders. So I urge Council support to consider the report act in the community's support and vote in favour of amalgamation without delay. Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation. Members, are there any questions of the deputy? It appears not. No, I think you're good. Thank you. I also have the final deputation is from Ms Lynn Saventi, please, in regards to item 12.2. Oh. Sorry, just a reminder that deputations should be 5 minutes. And if offensive in nature, I may cease. But
okay,
please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn Saventi, 13 Stewart Street, Margaret River. I also wish to thank Council sincerely for representing the wishes of the community by considering undertaking the bushfire hazard level assessment for the Narrabeen sites and putting the welfare of the community, present and future, ahead of the short-term goals of outsized development proposals. Thank you also for the opportunity of making this deputation. I'll begin by referring to the constant and horrifying television images that face us almost nightly of the currently raging wildfires in Europe, US and Canada. These are a warning to us. In Europe this year, close to 1 million hectares have been burnt since the beginning of the year, compared to 200,000 last year, a five-fold increase. Every year, the rise of wildfires increases. Thousands of people are evacuated, hundreds are injured, dozens are killed. Europe is, of course, heating at twice the rate of the world average, and this is due to the Arctic actually warming 4 times faster than the global average. However, this means only that here in Australia, we have a precautionary warning of what we face in the coming years. The Arctic has been heating more quickly than the Antarctic. Yet this can and is likely to change quickly. Research published just this month has shown abrupt changes are happening in the Arctic, in the Antarctic and the Southern Ocean. Antarctic ice cover, sea ice cover, has plunged dramatically over the last decade, and this will amplify human-caused climate warming. The floating sea ice, of which there's a vast amount in the Antarctic, doesn't add significantly to sea level rise when it melts, but its retreat replaces the white surfaces that reflect all of the sun's heat back into space, and then the deep blue water, which is the new surface, absorbs that same amount of heat. And this trend will speed up warming in our region, and we can expect the equivalent increase in wildfire. Coastal wildfires are increasing in speed and ferocity worldwide. Over 100 lives were lost in the 2003 Maui fire in Hawaii, and reports now show that warnings were ignored by decision makers, including the local government. The consequences of ignoring access and egress routes and their viability in an emergency were catastrophic for this community. As decision makers for our Shire, please instigate a bushfire hazard level assessment for Narrabeen. State bushfire rules allow for a bushfire hazard level assessment to be made on land that was zoned prior to the introduction of the current rules. It asks the question, what development is actually possible or sensible to undertake on these parcels of land? In Europe now, an equivalent hazard level assessment has been made available for all areas as it provides a clear picture of potential risk. The fire risk on these narrowboat sites is known to be extreme, and it's well known that DFES does not support intensive development because of the single access road. This report, the BHLA, will cost about $5,000, and it'll give the SDAU an unbiased assessment of the capacity of these sites to support development safely in this extreme bushfire risk environment. At present, the only document they can refer to is a bushfire management plan created by the proponent to support their own proposal. The process has put the horse before the cart. Undertaking the bushfire hazard level assessment will give the required picture based on the principles of safety that need to be applied. The officer's report acknowledges that Preserve Narrabeen has approached the Shire regarding the bushfire risk at Narrabeen. We have been frustrated by the process, although we thank the CEO for her actions. In 2020, the sites were not included in the bushfire hazard level assessment done in preparation for the coming introduction of LPS2, despite the area being identified as such a critical site and other similar sites being included, and no acceptable reason has been offered for this. Then, during the public submission period for the draft LPS2, the fire hazard was raised, but the officer advice was that this would be dealt with following the adoption of LPS2. In the meantime, the development application for Narrabeen proceeds and will soon be decided by WAPC. It's urgent that the bushfire hazard level assessment is completed without any delay. In November of last year, Preserve Narrabeen met with the CEO and requested that a BHLA be done, and the Shire gave an undertaking to highlight this with the Council and discuss the potential to engage a consultant to carry it out. However, the result was that the councillors reaffirmed their commitment to wanting to see the result of the bushfire hazard level assessment, but it could be done within the development process underway. The discussion paper on the bushfire planning process is on today's agenda, but it makes, for me, puzzling value judgments re possible changes to planning regimes. And I've got the, not that I've got the rest of my book, but basically, it's saying basically that in all the things it looks at, that you can't make changes. And yet we know that if you reduce the amount of development on that land, and in Narrabeen it's a case of an extra possible 1,500, of course it's going to change the consequences. So I want that considered. We often hear councillors being told to follow direct process, due process, and this is good advice. But as you know, as councillors, you've had huge changes from state government on that process, and it's almost like you, as a local government now, have to establish what your due process is. The need is there for a bushfire hazard level assessment. I commend it to you and for today. And I'd just like to say I commend and congratulate the Officer David Nicholson for the hopefully the final bit of the Wodandi trial because, sorry, I was on that as a council rep back then, and I well remember the day when the deputy, Ian Earl, came along to the meeting and sat there in increasing confusion as the bushfire started, and all his phone calls through to Calm, was it in those days? Said, no, it's all right, we've got it under control, Ian. Ian luckily left the meeting and helped to control that. So I'm really glad to see that the trail is going to be finally finished. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn Saventi, for your deputation. Any questions from the members? All right, folks. We now move on to item 8, petitions. Do we have any petitions? No. And just briefly, a Shire President announcement. Good afternoon, everyone, today for joining us. Thank you. I wish to thank the children, but they've now left. We had a great day with them today. It's an exciting time in our community. I'm constantly reminded how lucky we are to have such a vibrant calendar of events. Cinefest Oz is just around the corner with the launch on Saturday at the Heart, and the Heart is buzzing with performances and activities throughout that festival. I encourage you to come along and support the incredible event that we have right here on our doorstep. Also, in my role as Shire President, I've been catching up with a range of community groups, listening to ideas and opportunities as we plan for our future ahead. If you'd like to meet or share your thoughts, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. On that note, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that local government is the most accessible level of government. These chambers are where decisions are made that directly affect our community, our homes, our streets, our natural environment, and the services we all rely on. Because of that, we welcome and encourage community engagement in this process. Your voices, your perspectives, and your passion for this place are incredibly important. At the same time, I'd like to remind us that these chambers must remain a place of respect. We may hold strong differing views, but by listening to one another and debating ideas respectfully, we make better decisions for our community. Together, we can ensure these meetings remain inclusive, constructive spaces where all voices are heard and where we work towards outcomes that benefit our whole community. We will now move into item 10, which is questions from members of which due notice has been given, and there are none. Councillors, I'm proposing a procedural motion in change of order of business. So to suspend Standing Order 4.3, order of business, to allow Council to consider item 12. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Muir, seconder. Councillor Darth, let's vote on that procedural motion. That's carried. All right, we can now consider item 12. So this is motions from members of which previous notice has been given. We'll start with 12.1, which is the review of council information sessions policy raised by Councillor Keno. And then after that one, we'll deal with the 12.2, the bushfire hazard level assessment that Councillor Darth raised. So, members, let's consider this one first. 12.1. Do I have a councillor to move that recommendation or another motion, please? Councillor Keno? Okay, moving the officer's recommendation. Councillor Keno, is there a seconder? Councillor Muir. Councillor Keno, do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. Look, this motion's about streamlining our processes while maintaining transparency. The pre-meeting agenda review sessions have shown very low public attendance and largely duplicate what has already been achieved through agenda briefing sessions and public question time. Removing them will save time and resources for both councillors and staff, reduce unnecessary complexity in our meeting cycle, and ensure that our policy reflects actual practice. Importantly, the community will not lose any opportunity to ask questions or make deputations. Those mechanisms remain firmly in place. This is a practical step towards clearer, more efficient governance. I just think it's important that everybody knows that we can ask questions at any time with access to emails and phones and things like that. And for me, this is just an important step just to streamline things.
Thank you, Councillor Keno. Councillor Muir?
I concur with Councillor Canal. really, we need to ensure that all of our procedures and processes are transparent, and I think we really work towards doing that. We have open briefings, we encourage questions, we encourage emails, and we encourage people to come forward and talk to us. And we have found that there's generally been no attendance at our Q&As, and I think it really is perhaps wasting time, which we all could use better.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Do I have someone to speak against this motion? Oh, Councillor Boland.
Yes, I'll speak against it. I think we should stay with the current policy. The policy that we've got in front of us actually is a bit contradictory, because in the policy it says the Department of Local Government acknowledges that many local governments, especially those in rural areas, need to conduct pre-meeting forums as councillors need an opportunity to discuss issues within the freedom of a forum rather than in a formal council meeting. Now, I know there are various forums, but the standard practice in many local governments is to have an agenda forum, which we have tried the last 12 months or so. This one's been going round and round since we went away from fortnightly meetings. So the alternative to that was to hold an agenda forum as part of the process a week before the council meeting. And that's when, this is mainly about giving the public the opportunity to participate and observe transparent and open decision-making, or we actually don't make decisions at that meeting, but to see the processes involved in leading to a decision. And it's quite often only when that agenda has been published that the attention of the public will be concentrated, and gives them the opportunity to come out a week before the council meeting, because at the council meeting it may be far too late to be making changes. So the opportunity a week before is quite significant. I know we haven't had great take-up. Maybe it hasn't been a feature here because we were fortnightly meetings previously, but it seems to operate perfectly well in plenty of other local governments all around the state, whether metro or regional. And I think it's an important part of the public participation in the decision-making. So, yep, I understand there hasn't been great attendance. I don't think there's even been much online. We don't know who's online, but I think some is, I'd assume there's some attendances online, but they probably haven't been all that great either. But I would be persevering, maybe think things should be run differently, maybe more wide-ranging discussion actually at the agenda review meeting might be beneficial, but I would rather not take away this opportunity for public participation. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Boland. Do I have a councillor to speak for that? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thank you. I think we were in this position exactly a year ago, where we were trying to figure out if this was the right structure. And we said we'd give it a go for another 12 months and see if it did work for our community. And I think it's pretty clear that it's not necessary. It's not actually been a part that has been well utilised, because we actually, within that week leading up to the council meeting after the agenda is published, we have open briefings for any items that are on the agenda, which if a person of the public wants to come along and ask questions at that point, or councillors can ask questions at that point, and we kind of thrash it out, I guess is a good way of saying it, during those briefings, those open briefings, and therefore by the time we get to the Q&A, there's very little left to be said, because we've already done that process within that 2-week period leading up to the meeting. And just put it out to the community, if there are any agenda items that come up that they want to have an open briefing and they want to come and ask questions before the OCM, that they contact us, and I'm sure that councillors would be happy to add an open briefing on any agenda items the week before anyway. So I think this will actually call for a better opportunity to have, public engagement in a more constructive forum.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor Earl.
Yeah, I'll speak in favour and agree with all that's been said. I've struggled over the last 12 months to get to a lot of these meetings for reasons, but those that I have, I'd have to say just about have been a complete waste of time. All it's doing is holding the councillors up from going home, but also holding the staff up from going home when, to perhaps have 5 or 10 minutes of questions being asked that can easily be asked by emails or through the other processes we have. So I think, this was probably worth a try, but needs to be dispensed with.
Thank you. Finally, I'll just add my 2 bobs, and in that I do support this this motion. Thank you, Councillor Keno, for bringing it to Council. Time is precious for all of us elected members in the room, and I think we do allow for ample opportunity for community interrogation of our processes and our agenda, and we do really live much more in this digital world than we did, even a couple of years ago. So, that those opportunities are there. So I really don't feel that this is an efficient use, particularly of my time and of Council's time. So I support this. Right of reply, Councillor Keno. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried 5-1. Councillor Boland against. Now we shall move on to item 12.2, which is the bushfire hazard level assessment for Narrabeen, a motion raised by Councillor Darth at the previous meeting. Councillors, we have a motion there on the screen. Do I have a councillor to move that one or another motion? Councillor Darth, as it's written, I'm assuming. Councillor Muir, seconded. Councillor Darth.
Yeah, I'd just like to say there's a few items on tonight's agenda regarding bushfire hazard levels and measurement and management. And it's quite obvious that it's an important concern to our Shire, to our council and to our community. And I would like to thank all the community who have contacted council over the last few months about this motion and about this issue. And also really like to thank the Shire administration for preparing the report on the proposed motion. As the report reads, it's difficult to determine the utilisation of this BHLA, but it's also unlikely to have a negative consequence or high cost. So in saying that, I hope if this motion is supported by council, that it sends a clear message to our community that we take these bushfire concerns and hazard risks really seriously. And I hope that does get included somewhere in the decision-making process.
Thank you, Councillor Darth. Councillor Muir.
Back in March 2022, the Shire Council, when we had the opportunity to put forward our recommendations to the SDAU, we made it really clear that we couldn't support the development. And one of the key reasons that we were concerned was the extreme bushfire risk. And I think this motion is in keeping with ensuring that the bushfire hazard is acknowledged and that the concerns of the community are addressed. It isn't a large amount of money to ensure, I guess, that everything that we can do to address bushfire is addressed. Again, it is up to the state government to ensure that they listen, I guess, to local community, and that is, again, a concern here. So I commend this to my fellow councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Do I have a councillor to speak against this motion or for this motion? Councillor Boland.
Yes, I'm supportive of what we're doing here because I believe it's having an eye towards the ultimate decision around this application. It's heading towards the WAPC making a decision. I think one of the main issues there will be the fire risk, and this may have been a gap in the information that was going to go to the SDAU. I'm not saying it necessarily was, but there was some concern, particularly in the community, that this hadn't been fully addressed and completely addressed or directly addressed. So we're responding to that, but I think also carrying out our due diligence around this matter being at the WAPC when we're not a decision maker around the decision, it's the WAPC, but I assume we will be submitting to the WAPC our views on the development, and we will now have this information to support what we are saying at the WAPC. So I commend what we are doing here.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Any other member wish to speak? Councillor Earl.
Thank you. I'll actually speak against the motion, but I'd just like to make a few other comments, if I may, because it's probably the last chance I'll get to speak in something like this. I'd like to thank the Preserve Narrabri people, and because they're entitled to ask for requests and do this. And I'm actually not sure we as councillors should accede to it, but it looks like we have today. But also like to thank them for the tone of the emails that we received generally on this case, about this item. I think that was really good, and I think there was a genuine effort by them not to be rude, which was unlike what happened through the process through the scheme amendment, which I thought at times was some pretty disgraceful stuff that came out. But I'd have to say, not all of your members are as nice as that, and some of the things that actually really give me the irrits as a councillor of 16 years and a member of a volunteer in their community for over 40, I'd like to ask the question, why did the Shire refuse to do a fire assessment of the Narrabri development? There are only two reasons I can see why you would do so. You know the report will be unfavourable to the development of the resort in the area. Considering the Shire's history of bribes and corruption and the way the whole development was announced by Mr McGovern, doesn't even know the bloke's name, with nobody aware that he was even here, seems that corruption and bribery is still alive in the Augusta Margaret Shire. Every house down here needs a fire risk assessment, so why is this report immune from it? Now, I wrote back to those people as the only councillor person from here who did. Everybody received that email and asked for an apology, because I don't think any of us should be marked up with that. So Michael Rogers and Tracy Rogers should hang their head in shame that they write crap like this to us as councillors. I've got that one off my chest. But the other thing is, a bushfire hazard level analysis, the horse has bolted on this. We've now got a bushfire management plan which dictates the BAL. The BAL, they're trying to get a 29. They'll have a bushfire management plan which will say this is how you'll achieve your BAL. To do this bushfire hazard analysis thingamy-bob now is a waste of time. I can write it on the back of here for you, and you'll get exactly what you're going to get out of somebody that's going to spend $5,000 on it. But it won't make any difference. The other thing is, this whole process is being dictated to us and done to us by the government. It's going through their SDAU. And by the way, I was Shire President when Mr McGowan came down and announced this was going to happen. And he told us then this was going to be fast-tracked. Heaven help us if this is fast-tracking anything. So, and I do agree with what the Shire President said the other day around some of our responsibilities are being taken away around projects like this. The council should have an important, but we're not. It's been taken away from us, and I'd have to say that that's very disappointing at times. But the other side of this, of course, is that the length of time that it's actually taking to get there. It causes all this angst in the community. So we've got the people from Preserve Narrabri who don't want it. You've got a considerable amount of people out there who do want this development to go ahead. But they don't get to have much voice because they never do. People in favour never say much against the people, who don't want these things. So I think to some degree the government needs to take some responsibility around this and deal with this quickly. If they're going to approve it, approve the damn thing and let's get on with it. If they're not going to approve it, say so. But this land has had a use right over it for over 30 years. to put a resort on it, to build houses, to do whatever they like. They've paid rates and taxes on it, and at some point in time, they need to be able to start to recover some of their costs and do what they're entitled to do. Otherwise, the government should come up with the money to pay for it. I don't think they will. They'll probably try to lob that on it if you actually do anything foolish like trying to do scheme amendments against it. So anyway, so I speak against it. I just don't see that we as a council should spend $5,000 on this that is actually going to prove nothing. But happy for you to spend it if it's going to keep people over here happy.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Good to get a few things off your chest. I now ask anyone else, any other members who wish to speak to this, for it or against. Well, I will add, just going back to Councillor Earl's comments in regards to the decision makers in this proposal. But firstly, just to address the BHLA directly, and I don't agree with the comments from Preserve Narrabeen in regards to there being no explanation for this not being done. This could have been done across many sites. This is a really contentious site and a really an important community site. I agree, we all agree with you, but there are actually many other sites that we could do this assessment on, and that will be a future decision, and it should be a decision of council, because we are going into times of increased bushfire risk and risk to our community. So, yeah, I fully support doing this. I think it's another level of assessment, an independent assessment, which is clearly very different than the proponent doing assessment. I support that, and it puts it back on the decision maker, which is not us. It puts it back on WAPC to acknowledge that, you know, assessment of this block, of this property in their decision-making process, and it puts it back on them that if it does become, you know, a completed project, that analysis was done and they had that information in the event a catastrophic fire occurs there, which is inevitable. There's no doubt about it. So I support this. It's an insignificant amount of ratepayer funds for the purposes of doing all that we can to reflect our community values. I support it. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? If not, let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried 5-1 against. Councillor Earl? That's carried, folks. Okay. I'll just move a procedural motion, councillors, thank you, to reinstate Standing Order 4.3 and return to our order of business. Councillor Muir, are you moving that? Councillor Darth seconding that. No debate, let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried. So we're now going to, we'll just allow some people to leave if they wish. Thank you. All right, councillors, I'm going to suggest that we deal with some items en bloc, given the enormity of our agenda this evening. So I'm suggesting that we deal with en bloc 11.2.2. Have we got that there? Yeah, as opposed to me reading it out. Can you see those items there? So I'll get a councillor to move that we deal with them en bloc. If you need more time, let me know. No, Councillor Muir and Councillor Keno. Let's put that to the, sorry. All right. Yeah, is that your same comment, Councillor Boland, or?
The list, I didn't know this was coming, so.
That's okay, take your time. If you suggest that anything should be removed en bloc, please advise. And we can deal with it independently. Yeah? Okay, so we've removed the CSR FF, we'll deal with that. Right, let's put this to the vote to deal with these items en bloc. All those in favour? That's carried 6-0. Right. Councillors, we're now going to move into item 11.1.1, and I've declared a financial interest for this, so I shall be leaving the room and hand over to Councillor Muir.
Excuse me,
Yes, Councillor.
did we actually deal with those items? We moved that we'd deal with them en bloc, but did we actually move that we were passing all of them?
What's that? Sorry, just 2 seconds, Councillor Boland. Yeah. Yeah. My apologies, Councillor Muir, you can sit back down just for a little second. Of course, Councillor Boland. We do need to deal with those items. So the motion is that the officer recommendations in relation to each of those 6 items that we're dealing with en bloc, we're going to endorse them. Okay, so let's put that to the vote. Everyone in favour of that? Carried 6-0. All right, and that's the same mover and seconder, which is Muir and Keno. Okay, now we'll move, my apologies, back into the item we were dealing with, which is 11.1.1, and I'll remove myself from the room. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. So we have before us item 11.1.1, the minutes of the Advocacy Committee. Do I have a councillor who'd like to put this on the table? And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dath and Councillor Earl. Councillor Dath?
Yeah, just move it as the officer's recommendation. I'm, as part of the Advocacy Committee, I'm happy to see these items published, and so that our community is aware of the ongoing efforts of the Shire and the Council in our advocacy. And I do support the recommendation that the President attend the RAI Summit, and then hopefully get some further meetings with federal members of Parliament. There's a lot of work that goes into our Advocacy Committee from the councillors and the Shire administration, and there's little point to it if we aren't, progressing those issues by having meetings and speaking to any member of Parliament that we can talk to. So, and it's not a huge cost to ratepayers, and it could have really good outcomes for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Earl.
Yeah, look, I fully support it, and I do believe the Shire President should go to Canberra to talk to the politician, talk to those in charge that hold the purse strings. It may not actually get us anywhere, but if you don't go, you won't get anywhere anyway. So you've got to have a crack at this. If we're going to run an advocacy committee, we need to be advocating properly. We need to get to those people who do hold the money. And we keep hearing from the people on my right over here about that we all need more money to make everything operate properly. So I'm very happy for the Shire President to go.
Thank you. Do I have any other councillor who'd like to speak for or against this item? No. Well, I would also, as a member of the Advocacy Committee, I think it's really important we develop those relationships, and advocacy is a long game, and we need to be continually meeting with, people who have power and putting forward our issues and working with other regional areas to try and achieve, better outcomes for our community. So I commend this. Councillors, could we put this to the vote? All those in favour? Thank you. And that was carried unanimously. And we now move on to the next item.
Okay, councillors, I'm sorry, because it's a bit of a theme tonight, I thought we might just change the order of business to allow speedway consideration, unless you guys want to stay for another hour while we get through everything else. Councillors, can I have someone please to move a procedural motion to change the order of business again? Councillor Muir, Councillor Earl, put that to the vote. All those in favour, that's everyone. Fantastic. Okay, so let's go to that. And that is item 11.3.1. So I'll just wait for to come up on the screen. Okay, this is councillors considering the AMR Speedway lease extension request. We have a officer recommendation there on the screen. Do I have a member to move that? Councillor Earl moving, Councillor Duff seconding. Councillor Earl.
Yeah, thanks very much. I do support the officer's recommendation. I'm pleased to hear that the Speedway are happy with the recommendation, and I wish them well in their endeavours to chase funding to do the improvements that are required at the Speedway. It has been around an awful long time, not quite as long as me, but it's getting horribly close to it. But it's been one of those great community sports, down here in Margaret River. If you go there on a Saturday night, it's probably the biggest crowd that any of the sports in Margaret River will get. The place is chock-a-block. It's certainly worth going, and I've been there a few times, and I have to. Many years ago when I lived in Perth for 10 years, I went to Claremont Speedway every Friday night with my wife over here. We went and listened to the noise. But other than that, it's a great community event. But I'm really pleased to see that around being able to sublease and sublet and get other people to use the place while it's not being used for Speedway. I think there's probably some really good opportunities for the Speedway, which will make their life better, make the community's life better, and. Yeah, all power to you. Well done.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Duff.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier during the deputations. I really enjoyed reading this strategic plan. There was a lot of thought and effort that went into that, and just by looking at how much work went into that, it's clear that this is a group with lots of volunteers who have a really big commitment to what they're doing. So that gives me the assurance that this is a good use of Shire land, and really excited to read about the possibilities, of the drivers club, like driver training and other clubs like Pump Track and stuff like that. I think that'd be great additions. And all the information that you put in there about mental health and youth and inclusion, I think this could be used as a bit of a model to show other not-for-profits what, if they brought something like this to us or to funding bodies, that they would have a lot of support. So well done. It was a really good document. Just if there is any community concerns about the noise, I've lived in Margaret River for 20 years and I love it. I love, even if I don't attend myself, I love it's, that time of the year and you hear it and you're like, yeah, Speedway's going. And it's the same with cows, people complaining about cows or tractors or something like that if they move to Margaret River. Look, we live in a rural area. You're going to hear tractors at night working because, we have agricultural practices here. You're going to hear the cows mooing when they do, and you're going to hear the Speedway. And that's just part of being part of Margaret River. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any councillors to speak for or against this? Against this, I'll ask first. Or for? Yes, Councillor Muir.
Thank you. Yeah, just to concur, I guess, with Councillor Dath, I do think I'd like to congratulate the Speedway and your volunteers. It's rare, I guess, these days to have a community group that is able to last for so long, have succession planning in place, have a future plan, look at infrastructure and asset management. That's really important, and I'm really excited, I guess, to see the plans for a sublease and how that eventuates. And it really is, to Councillor Dath's comments, I know on my street, a young fella down the end, he races a car and, he's out there fixing it. And I know another family with a young daughter who races. And I think that's fantastic. It really is important, and it's something which makes us unique, and it's part of the identity of our town. So thank you for all your efforts.
Anyone else? Councillor Boland, I think you had your hand up first, and then Councillor
Yes, I'm going to speak against this on the basis that we're looking at land optimisation in the Shire. We've just passed a policy around that. And in that it's saying priority will be given to proposals where occupancy arrangements include co-location, shared use, highest community utilisation in order to meet growing community needs and maximise community benefit. There's there's some views here that co-location will happen, but it seems very loose at the moment. We've got a site that's really only used 10 days a year, and query whether that's the best use of a site. Again, I mean, some people might like it. I can understand that it is popular, and yeah, but you know, is it really a great use of a site to have cars being driven around in circles fast and dangerously and making excessive noise, burning valuable fossil fuels? Is that really a great use of the site and a great use of the community's resources? It's the only racetrack in WA apparently with the noise exemption, which is quite remarkable that it's actually got an exemption. I've been to speedways previously, like Councillor mentioned Claremont, been there, but that no longer exists. I used to go to Forestfield Hot Rods when I was little, but that no longer exists. I mean, whether these uses are the best it depends on the situation. I suppose they're more urban situations, but still, are we getting value from this site? I mean, one possible way to make it more less harmful, I guess, would be electric vehicles. I mean, the time I have been to this site, they did have an electric scooter race, so it's not out of the question that you can race electric vehicles around this track. That might make a little bit more sense. And we're tying this up for, it's probably 13 years, because we're extending, on top of the lease that currently exists, another 10, which takes it out to 13. I'm not sure we're making the best use of this site. So those are my concerns.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Boland. Right of reply. Oh, sorry, Councillor Keno. Yes, of course, you haven't spoken yet. Go for it.
I support the officer's recommendation. We had the school students in here a little while ago and they were talking about skills, just basic skills like changing tyres, learning how to drive. These are where this happens. The kids that get up there and they learn and they become a part of it, they fix cars, they build cars, and these are skills that they don't get anywhere else. I think, 10 meets a year? It's not big. The noise, it's part of the fun. It really is. Gosh, if we're going to go to electric cars, they need speakers on the back because it's just not going to be the same. It's all part of the whole adrenaline thing that goes off. We've currently got a state government planning a $217.5 million sporting precinct in the centre of Perth. And we're worried about 10 meets in Margaret River. Yes, I can hear them from my home and I live on Coramut Bay Road, but I love it. Look, I'm very supportive of this and I think it's great if we can look to find ways to engage with other community groups and make it a multi-purpose area. And look, very supportive of this, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Keno. Well, I will just make a comment. I do actually agree with some of your comments, Councillor Boland, in regards to our land optimisation policy and us as strategic decision makers. Is this the most effective use of this valuable piece of land? It is a much loved, obviously, community group and sport, and I understand that and respect it, so I support this. But and just on your comments, Councillor Keno, particularly around the $217.5 million sporting precinct in Perth, I think it's an absolute gross amount of money that the state government is wasting when we have a crippling health system, homeless people, homelessness rising, and a housing crisis. So. Yeah, I don't like to refer something. It's just a gross amount of money, and really upsets me that the state thinks that's a priority at the moment. But in regards to this item that we're dealing with, yes, I support this. Happy to see that cohabitation tied into the lease. So, Councillor Earl, do you feel you would like a right of reply? No, let's put it to the vote then. All those in favour? Carried unanimous. Oh, sorry, that's 5-1. Boland against. Okay. Procedural motion, councillors, to go back to the order of business. Councillor Muir to move that. Councillor Keno, all those in favour? That's 6 hands carried. Thank you. Okay. And Mr Jasper is waiting eagerly in the audience there. I'm suggesting for the consideration of 11.2.1, the final draft bushfire risk management plan. Councillors, we have... Thank you, folks. We have a motion there on the screen. Members, we just have an update that Mr Logan is going to provide us. Will that be on the screen or...? Okay, thank you. So Mr Logan's referring to attachment 1, which is part of this motion that we're considering. Are there any questions in regards to that? All right, let's consider a motion. So Councillor Muir, the officer's recommendation? All right. Councillor Muir to move and Councillor Duff to second that. Councillor Muir?
Well, firstly, I'd like to thank Adam Jasper for all this work on this and the team. It's certainly been a long process, and I was really impressed with the consultation that did take place, and potentially that's a model I think that we can utilise into the future with BFAC, and ensuring, I guess, that everyone's voice was heard and put together. And I'm really interested to look at the resilience-based approach to how we deal with this risk. We've heard in different contexts that bushfire is an extreme risk in our shire, and we need to think about how we deal with it. And I do think different communities have different tolerance for, I guess, different approaches, and we need to ensure that everyone is aware of the risks and is able to deal with them. And I think a resilience-based approach will be really interesting to take forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Muir. Councillor Duff.
Yeah, Councillor Muir just said everything I was going to. Yeah, just that this review's been going on for a long time. Yeah, you might just see the published document now, but we've been having workshops and briefings on this with Adam for a long time. So, yeah, thank you for all the work that went into this. And yeah, I'm also very, excited, and I can't wait to see what the resilience-based approach comes, because I feel like that is definitely a place that is important to develop for our community, like the resilience, the education and preparation for bushfire. I think it was mentioned earlier today that so many people start their bushfire management plan and then, over 75% of them don't actually complete it. So, there's a lot of work that can be done there with education and preparation for our community, so that when, not if, but when this happens, we have a community that can band together and yeah, it not be quite so detrimental to our community.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other members wish to speak to this? I'll make comment on this in that whilst very different issues, I think the endorsement of this plan and this resilient-based focus, and as we heard from Mr Jasper today, that resilience, I guess bushfire resilience or community resilience and understanding and responsibility of bushfire risk is everybody's business. And I heard it similarly in a local government homelessness forum the other week that I attended. The only elected member in the room from the southwest, by the way, and also highlighted there was that homelessness is everybody's business. So if you put it, of course, very different issues, but if you put it in that lens, I really think this is a great progressive approach. It's 1.4% of the land that is ours. So there's a large responsibility back on private landowners and particularly, of course, the state, with 54% of the land considered in our shire, to understand this, risk and responsibility. So I'm really pleased to move this motion in its current form. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, now I'll just check our order of business. Right, so I'm just checking procedurally, we don't actually need a motion to go back to order of business because we are in order, which is great. So let's go to 11.2.3, councillors, because we've considered 11.2.2 and we moved that on block. So we'll jump to 11.2.3, which is the bushfire safety discussion paper. There is a motion in front of us, councillors, an officer recommendation. Do I have someone to move that? Or yes, Councillor Muir to move that. Seconder, Councillor Duff. So this is to note the discussion paper and note the staff will pursue the advocacy items contained within this when suitable opportunities do arise, and note that the Shire's Advocacy Committee will consider whether to include opportunities for advocacy when next it meets. So, Councillor Muir, do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you. I support the recommendations as noted. I think it again highlights how we need, as a local shire, and I guess with particular concerns in regards to tourism, environmental values, we need to be able to develop an approach that is context-driven, and I feel like the state is not recognising that. And I do think we need to advocate really hard to ensure that our environmental values are protected and our community is kept safe, and that we're able to balance the needs of those two things, and particularly ensure that extreme fire risk is addressed appropriately. So hopefully this furthers that conversation.
Thank you. Anyone, or Councillor Duff, do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I was actually going to thank everyone who came and asked questions about this discussion paper, but they've all left now. Because it obviously had a lot of public interest. But it is just that it's a discussion paper. It's something that we can use to continue this conversation with the administration, the council and the community. I do support the recommendation that this goes to the Advocacy Committee, and I look forward to sitting down and working through that in what we can tease out from it to highlight and have a discussion paper that we can, use to continue our advocacy for, local government-led decisions around planning developments in areas of high-risk fire areas. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Anyone else wish to speak for or against this? I'll speak for it. I think, in short, this really highlights that at the end of the day, no matter what, the state government's going to do what they like, and the power continues to be in the ability for us to influence and identify risk and then actually have action toward mitigating against it has been reduced and continues to be reduced by the state government. Therefore, we're in this position we are. So we're noting this paper. I'm keen to see the pursuing advocacy where we can. But, ultimately, I hope that the state government, does understand that the reduction of powers to local government isn't always in the best interest of the community, particularly around bushfire management and, our responsibility as decision makers to ensure the safety of our community is first and foremost. So I support this recommendation. Let's put it to the vote. Councillors, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda, councillors, is 11.2.4, and this is a delegated authority to award tender for the project management of the Wadandi track. So we have an officer recommendation there in front of us. Do I have a councillor to move that? Councillor Earl? Seconder? Councillor Keno. Councillor Earl?
Thank you. I very much support it, and I'm actually looking forward to this eventually getting finished. And ex-councillor Lynn Saventi stole my thunder earlier on, because I was going to mention the fact that I was at a Rails to Trails, it was called at that time, meeting at the Duggan Pavilion in Quarrumup on that particular day, sitting out the sort of side with my ear on the meeting, looking at this cloud of smoke that was sitting out off the back here, and eventually had to disappear because that got the better of me. But that's not what we're here for. Back then, in 2011, I think we talked about $15 to $17 million to finish the project, and that's a long time back now, that it's taken us to get to this point where perhaps we might be able to spend $7.5 million, which was announced several years ago, to get this project finished. I certainly had hoped that by the time that I'd finished on council, I'd be able to ride from one end to the other on my electric bike. It ain't going to happen right at the moment, but I still hope that I can live long enough that Mr. Logan and his team actually gets this project finished so that I can get it done. Once done, it'll be an outstanding asset to our region, to tourism, the people that like to ride the bikes down there. It'll open up a great section of other views for people to see. You know, there's already a fair bit of track in place. There's a fair bit to be done in Busselton, but a fair bit to the south end. Just got to make sure we can get around the people who will object to it going through their farms. They need to be reminded that it isn't their farms, that actually the land belongs to the state, and they've just been using it free of charge for umpteen years, and they might have to give a little bit of it back. But yeah, look, I just hope it goes well. I commend the CEO and everyone else that may well be able to get onto this. Let's get it moving while some of us might still be able to ride the thing.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Keno?
I'm just wondering, maybe we should consider making it wheelchair friendly.
That's another bloody age. Jeez.
And a speaker on the back. I'm very supportive of this. It's a long time in the making, and it's just, you know, any bike we can get off the road is a win. And that ability for kids to jump on their bikes and ride into Margaret River is huge. And the ability for people to ride from Busselton is just going to be massive. And I'm very, very supportive of this, and I'd like to see it continue going all the way to Bunbury, but we won't go there yet.
Thank you, Councillor Keno. Anybody else wish to make comment? I'll just say that I'm pleased to see this recommendation, which is simply an administrative correction to allow it to continue and to appoint a manager, project manager. Please, the state committed money to get this done. So yeah, absolutely confident that the two components of this motion can allow it to proceed. Let's put it to the vote, councillors. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item is 11.3.3, my apologies, which is actually, sorry, 11.3.2. Oh, no, yes, that's right. Sorry, we didn't move on block the CSRFF grants items. So we have that there to consider, councillors. We have a recommendation from our officers. Councillor Earl wishes to move that, and Councillor Muir to second. Councillor Earl.
Yeah, I actually thought this was worth pulling out of doing a block, because this is actually a significant development for us in our shire and for our sporting organisations. I actually, I've probably been heavily invested in that area over a long period of time with football. Sorry, with footy, with cricket down there. Back in the days when we only had one cricket pitch out there, and the oval was in such poor condition that we would have a Scab of the Week award for the skin that was coming off the knees. That's how bad it was back then. But then, I guess with the downturn of the economy, the government threw some money at the Shire and I think it was through a RED scheme, and they built and we built that project down there, which has been there since 84, something thereabouts. So it's in well need of an upgrade, as is the indoor rec centre needs some work on it. And if, again, the history will tell you that that was mostly all built by, the original part was built by volunteers out the back. They had the one court on the inside, and the rest was built by volunteers. Perhaps that shows why we've got some problems with it now, but it probably wouldn't have been there. Both of these projects help to get a lot of kids, but a lot of people as well, off the streets, out of their houses, into sports, doing things that are really, really good for them and good for the community. If you go down there on Saturday and see in winter and see the growth of sports like soccer, it's terrific. And rugby with it down there. Come to summer, the place overflows with young cricketers. We've probably got the biggest lot of young cricketers playing around as well. So we need these upgraded facilities, and I think one way or another we need to make sure the CFRS grants do come part of it, and then that, we need to hope like hell that they present us with the money, but if they don't, then we need to really get on our bikes and tell the government that again that if they're promoting us as a place for people to come and live and play, for people to come and recreate, they've got to put their hand in their pocket and provide us with the money so that we can upgrade our stuff around the place like we need to. So I very much support it, and well done for us getting to the position where maybe end of this year we might be able to get cracking on it or something.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Muir.
Yeah, I would just like to thank the staff for their initiative in putting this forward when the grant application program hasn't even opened, and hopefully the state will open it and we can access that money. I think it's really important. Sport is, I guess, the glue of our community in many ways, and it's really important for mental health, it's important for community resilience, and I think improving the facilities to ensure greater accessibility for all members of our community is really important. And I commend the clubs involved. Like, I know the soccer club have really worked hard to involve girls. They have a girls team, they have particular coaches working with girls. So it's really important that there's commensurate facilities to allow that to happen. And I think this is vital. So I commend it. Thank you.
Any other councillor wish to speak for? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, I'll speak for this Shire recommendation. It is a lot of money that we're looking at putting in as well, but as we discussed earlier today, that's kind of the upper end of it, so hopefully there's other opportunities for us to seek funding from elsewhere as well. Like Councillor Muir just said, sport is so important. It's been quite a big week in youth mental health for us in our Shire, so we know the importance of sport and recreation and outdoor activities and that inclusivity of everybody. So I really hope these grants become available soon, and I like the number 5 that we're going to get onto that as an advocacy issue as well. I look forward to helping push that through where we can, and make sure that as soon as these funds are announced, that we are ready to act upon it. So thank you to the Shire administration for being very prepared to do that.
Any other councillor wish to speak for this or against it? Councillor Boland.
Very pleased to see this on the agenda, and some good work's been done by the administration in putting this project together. We're going to be committing quite a bit of money to it, but I think it would be money well spent. Let's hope that the funds that apparently, aren't being made available at the moment are made available, and I suppose it's over to our advocacy committee to push hard on that. But these are very good works that would be well used. I mean, I think the court upgrade of the rec centre probably completes the upgrade there, which will bring that whole complex up to a very high standard. And the Western Pavilion is very well used. It services quite a big area down there, and many people do patronise it, and the facilities really do need a significant upgrade. So hopefully we can obtain some government funding which will assist both these very worthy projects.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Okay, folks, let's put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 11.2, 3.2, which is our communications agreement. We have an officer recommendation there. Do I have someone to move that to get a motion on the table? Councillor Earl, and a seconder, Councillor Keno. I believe there is some amendments proposed by Councillor Boland.
Yes, there are some amendments. They're probably going to come up on the screen.
Yep, we'll just wait for those.
Have been circulated and the subject of some discussion. It's just essentially making a change to numbers 6 and 8 because we're adopting a draft communications agreement, and that draft communications agreement has, let's have a look, it's got 15 clauses and then 2 tables.
Just get some form. Just need a moment, councillor. Just got a formatting issue.
All right.
Just so we can be clear on what the amendment is, because that's not it, I don't think, in front of us. If anyone wants to stand up and stretch their legs or do a high five, now's probably a good time.
Yeah, I'm going to.
You would like to ask a question, Councillor Muir? Yep.
I guess I'm feeling a little confused. If we defer this item, what are the repercussions of that? Could that?
Okay, the CEO, I think we'll answer that while Mr McLeod's going through the documentation.
Thank you, through the chair. So Mr McLeod is currently working on getting a highlighted version of the amendments up for councillors to see. So while he does that, the urgency around this is to have an agreement adopted by council before the caretaker period. If this is not adopted, then when the regulations come into effect, the default agreement would take effect.
Councillor Muir?
So would it be possible for this to be brought back to council? Like, would a notice of motion be required or something to bring this item? Will we need to come up with a new communications policy when council's reconvened with a new council? Sorry.
Are you talking about endorsing the current changed one?
Yeah, so if we...
Just to clarify.
Sorry. If we endorse the current, or what's put forward by the officers' recommendations, but if there is a desire to put forward some amendments, would a notice of motion be required? Like, what would be the process, I guess?
Okay, so Mr McLeod may offer further commentary. So this communication agreement, if it is adopted by council today, it can be amended when it is re-adopted. It will need to be re-adopted post the elections, the October elections, and any amendments could be made to the agreement at that point. But of course, at any time, council can put forward changes to policy or amendments as notice of motion.
Councillor Boland, it appears...
Yes. Can I make some comment around that? Because I have been trying to follow this quite closely.
Hold on, I'm just getting clear on the process. So are you asking a question? Because you can't comment unless you're talking to an amendment or talking to a motion. So just to be clear.
Yeah.
Is it a question you're asking, Councillor?
No, I was going to respond to Councillor Muir's question, but we
can't
can
really
pass,
do that
we
until...
can pass on that, yeah.
Yeah, so. No. Okay, so we currently have some information on the screen there that I'm assuming relates to the, maybe Councillor Boland, if you just check this amendment. So what we're going to do is, as Councillor Boland has suggested an amendment, we're going to deal with this first, and then whatever happens, we'll go back to the motion, of course, as we do. So is this in the form A that you expected, Councillor Boland, and that we previously questioned before? I'm just checking.
It appears to be.
Okay, so the removal, so the red, let's just confirm, I'm just asking a question, I guess, of Mr McLeod. The removal, or the written through words in red have been removed from Councillor Boland's original amendment post that question and answer time that Council had previously, is that correct?
Yeah, that's
Thank
correct.
you.
So it's the additions
Thank you.
or deletions since Councillor Boland circulated proposed motion.
Okay. Can we just go down the screen, please? Okay. Yep. All right. Okay. So, Councillor Boland, you'll need a seconder to get these amendments on the table. All right, I'll second it. Councillor Boland, do you wish to speak to this amendment?
Yes, thank you. I'll just start with that issue that Councillor Muir raised, and it'd be good if we weren't doing this at all. And I did give consideration to deferring the whole thing, but there is the chance that the state government will finally require this to come into effect. It was passed in 2023, but still hasn't come into effect and still is being consulted by the department, and the consultation period around it only closed last Friday. And it's quite problematic whether the whole thing is going to be in place by October. So we're dealing with legislation that may not even be in effect. Like we're saying, well, we don't want the default agreement that's in the legislation to apply because that's quite onerous. But I think there's a fair chance it's not going to be in place by then anyway, with the lack of progress on it till now. Well, still, the department hasn't come back with what it thinks about what it's hearing from the consultation. And I have heard that there's probably likely to be quite significant changes to the default agreement. So whether they're going to introduce that the default agreement applies when apparently they're not even happy with the default agreement. So it's all a bit of a dog's breakfast that the state government's created for us, but we're being prudent to try and put something in place so that we do have something if what the state government is saying it is going to do actually happens. But
So I just encourage you, Councillor, to just, if you can speak to your amendment.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the amendments are relatively simple. It's just we've got a draft communications agreement, 15 clauses. There's only 2 of the clauses that I'm seeking any changes to. And it's simply around, well, some improvements to what we had before us, and also shifting the dial slightly on the issue of access to information, as I thought what was coming through was a bit restrictive. Maybe if I run through each one, it's probably not that difficult to run through each one and make clear what's...
I'm thinking maybe just those that are different to what's already, like, substantially different to those that are already in the policy, because all the councillors have read the policy. But yeah, I mean, if you can...
It's probably easier if I do point out what it is. So 6.1 is really just adding a few extra words which are actually in the legislation, the words "or under any other written law." That's just more, stating that legislation more clearly, more fully. 6.2 was changed only to make it fit better with what's in Schedule 1, Table 2, because when I read that, I thought it's not really saying what it needs to in that schedule. So it's just clarifying that. I think the admin today said that's a better version than what we had. The same goes for 3. 6.4. There are a few changes there. This is where it's shifting the dial a bit on access to information, which is a really important right for councillors to be able to seek that information and be provided with it. So So there was a change to 6.4a to take out a sentence there about this does not extend to unlimited access to all records and information held by the Shire. B took out the word exact. C remained the same. D remained the same. E went out completely because it was quite restrictive about the ability to access information or be provided with information. F remained the same, G remained the same, H remained the same with a typo corrected, and I remained the same. 6.5 remained the same. And then 8 essentially remained the same, just with a bit of improvement of the drafting.
Okay, so 8's the same. All right. So we have a question from Councillor Muir.
Could I just ask a question of the administration? These changes or amendments, would they be onerous would they impede, I guess, the operations? Yeah, what would be the impact?
No, not significantly as in the way they're currently proposed.
Okay. All right. Councillor Boland, I'm taking that as you talking to the amendment, in that it's quite extensive. It's there in front of us. I seconded that amendment. Sorry, Ms Dixon, can you just go up, please, to the start of that? All right. Look, I'm satisfied that these minor administrative amendments that Councillor Boland's proposed actually doesn't significantly change the purpose of the policy that we need to have in place. We need to do it today. I don't support deferring it. It's insignificant in substance, and we've received confirmation from the staff that there's no extra, and in fact some of these amendments are actually an improvement of what was suggested by the officers. So I think this is a good collaborative approach to, whilst it may have been a little bit late for council to see it, it's definitely something I support. I'm quite happy to support this amendment. Anyone wish to speak against or for this amendment? Councillor Earl.
Thank you. I'll speak against it. I'm just not sure how we as councillors are supposed to actually understand this. And it's well and good for us to get advice from Mr McLeod that this could be okay, but it's our obligation to sit here and read this stuff. We were starting to get this to us 40 minutes before the meeting, so we've had no real opportunity to actually sit down and work this out ourselves. A couple of words that Councillor Bolden used, which I think are very, very apt in this, and that's dog's breakfast. That's what this is turning into now. This is something we shouldn't be doing these amendments at this stage. We should just stick with the original motion that was put up. by the officers, and if it's the will of the council, the next council in November or December or sometime in 26 to make these changes, well, then let's make the changes. These changes appear to really only be because one councillor appears to be trying to get extra information out of the staff. That's what it appears to be. That I'm not sure he's entitled to do. This has been going on for a long time. I don't believe we should support this. And there's for a number of reasons. I actually don't. I've got a list of things here that I had some concerns around. I don't actually know if how many of these actually are relevant to the motion from what we originally saw. But yeah, there's a risk of overreach here. There's a risk of weakening of prioritisation and governance with this thing. There's a potential for increased administrative burden. There's some removal of transparency. There's ambiguous widening of councillor functions. There's no clear oversight with some of this stuff. There's a potential for conflict. There's other stuff in this. I cannot make a decision on that. I can on the substantive motion because I've had time to go through that. I haven't had time to read this. I don't know how to put that in. I can take it on face value that Councillor Bowler, being a lawyer, knows what he's talking about. I couldn't quite actually understand what he was saying to us. I can take it on face value that that Mr McLeod says it's okay. But if you're going to take it on face value, then don't bring it to council, just deal with it through the officers. So I can't support this.
Any other member wish to speak for or against this amendment? Councillor Duff.
I don't actually know which one. I don't know much. I'm looking at this and there's a couple of items in there that kind of jump out at me that I would like to have time to discuss with the administration. So I guess I kind of have a question to the administration that I think Councillor Muir was trying to touch on earlier. Is it possible to adopt it as it stands today and have it workshopped, and when it is re-endorsed, these are considered and the changes which Mr McLeod is happy with and said are actually better because they're more in line with it are dealt with then? So we can actually see it in the document clearly, because at the moment there's a couple of points in there I'm struggling to understand and agree with, like, the action be like prioritised. I would probably want to speak to administration about, with the 10 days, and also that actually that wording has been changed again since when we spoke about it earlier today. So I'm not sure I'm in agreement with H. So I would probably prefer to, if it is able to, that we might adopt it as is, and then look at these minor alterations being put into the one that comes to the next meeting when it has to be re-endorsed, if possible.
Okay. Do I have any other councillor to speak for or against this amendment? Councillor Keno.
Yeah, I'm going to speak against the amendment. Something that's always been really important to me is having the proper information around the decisions that we make. Now, getting information yesterday while I was working, had a meeting last night, been here since 9 o'clock this morning. This is a lot to get our head around amongst all of that. And I want to make sure that we're making the right decisions. I want to make sure that there's no little quirks in here that are going to cause a pain down the track. There is potential down the track to bring these things into play. So for that reason, I don't support this amendment. I'd like to go back to the officer's recommendation, and maybe down the track we can tweak that.
Okay, any other councillor wish to speak for or against? Councillor Muir.
May as well, everyone else has. I'm certainly in two minds. I think it is very difficult to deal with something of this nature without, I guess, a lot of time to consider it, and I would like some time to workshop it just to understand, I guess, any implications. On principle, I think it is really important that there is efficient and regular sharing of information. Obviously, that can be abused or, be onerous, and I guess that's my concern, is ensuring that the day-to-day workings of the administration are allowed to happen unhindered. That's really important. And equally, that councillors are informed enough of all items that they need to be. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Okay, Councillor Boland, right of reply.
Yes, thank you. I'd still support these amendments. I can understand what people are saying because it is relatively technical, and I'd rather not be doing all this work. The state government has made us do this. They're the ones who are saying you now must have a councillor agreement about access to information. So we didn't have to have one before. So there's the Act that says what happens. So it's only because the state government is telling us to do this that we're putting it in place. So, and the amendments that I'm suggesting to the what was there previous are relatively minor. That's what I was going through before. It's just shifting the dial a little bit on access to information, which is an important fundamental right of councillors, and that should be stated in the best possible way. I thought there was some limitations on that could be changed, and I think we've essentially, well, with my discussions with the administration, we've come up with an acceptable set of words. But anyway, I think it's worth amending this part of the agreement so that we've got one in place. Thank you.
Councillors, it's time to vote on this amendment specifically. So, all those in favour? Councillor Boland, and those against? That's 5. Okay, so that amendment's lost. So we now revert back to the original motion, and there we have it there. Okay, so that is to adopt the this new policy and revoke the previous one. And we had Councillor Earl moved that. So Councillor Earl, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Keno? Anyone to speak against this or for it? Councillor Boland?
I'll speak against it, just in terms of I think those changes should have been made to have made it a better communications agreement. So, yeah, it could have been improved. And as it stands, I think there's some serious shortcomings, potentially. Well,
he's not saying specifically Councillor Earl, so if you can just wrap up your right of reply, Councillor Boland.
Yes, well, it's not right of reply. No, I thought we were dealing with.
You're speaking against it. My apologies. Yes, you can speak against the motion. Yes.
Yeah. So I think we could have come up with a better communications agreement. So we'll vote again. There's good things in there, and this is what we're going to have to live with in the future if we're councillors, that we're going to have this communications agreement, which hasn't been in place previous. It's something quite new. So I've been putting quite a lot of effort into trying to get a good communications agreement, and there's quite a few components to that, like what the default agreement says, what the legislation says, what various submissions made by various people, local government elected members associations, one I've been contributing to. It appears we'll get this anyway, but I'll just say I think it could have been better, so I'm not going to vote for it because it wasn't the best that it could have been. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Muir.
Yeah, I think I commend the staff on putting this together. I think it's difficult in a short time frame, and I guess I'm hoping that we can have a workshop to discuss it, and I think our previous amendment and that process indicates that as a council we really need to think closely about this, and going forward I'm looking forward to, well, fingers crossed anyway, having a discussion about, I guess, how the communications agreement can work most effectively.
Okay, I'm going to say a couple of words just in regards to this agreement. I think actually the staff did a great job in the two workshops. I believe it was a workshop and a briefing that council have already had. It is a lengthy document by nature. There's lots of words in this document, so it's very difficult for our hardworking staff to actually interpret every single word within the policy in such a lengthy document. So I commend them for the work they did, and I in fact supported these minor amendments in that it was just it is a difficult document to consolidate without going through every single word, and that's our job as councils. We own these documents, so if we want to change them we can, which potentially we will do at a later date, so that's great. This needs to be endorsed. Yes, Councillor Earl, it is an administrative burden, another one imposed by the state government. Thanks very much. Yeah, and the second part of the motion that we need to revoke the previous one again because the state government's told us. So, yeah, let's just endorse this and get on with it. And at a later time, if we want to modify it, we can. But just highlighting to council and recognising that such a wordy document is quite hard for the staff to get it bang on by having two workshops with council, and noting also that not all council members were there at every one. So, I support this. Anyone else wish to comment? No? Let's wrap it up and put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried 5, and against? Councillor Boland against. Thank you. Councillors, look, I'm just going to suggest an adjournment of 5 minutes. We've still got a few things to... Councillor Earl moves that. To someone to second. Councillor Muir. All those in favour? Let's take a 5-minute comfort break, councillors, and come back and consider the rest of our agenda. Thanks. Okay, councillors, a procedural motion I think is necessary to get back into the process of the meeting. Councillor Muir, Councillor Earl, all those in favour? Everybody, thank you. We will now deal with item 11.3.3, excision of a portion of Reserve 37811 to amalgamate with Reserve 27643. Councillors, is there, yes, Councillor Muir to move the officer's recommendation and Councillor Keno to second that. Do you wish to speak to that?
I support it as written and look forward to the activation of the Ellis Street precinct.
Councillor Keno. Anyone else wish to speak for or against this? Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.3.4 is the CEO performance review. I have a written declaration of interest from the CEO. Financial interest, of course, in the item relates to her remuneration, hence I'm declaring financial interest. So if you wanted to... Don't need to leave the room. No. Okay.
As an officer.
Great. All right. Councillors, we have a recommendation there. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Earl, seconder. Councillor Muir. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, and I very much support the recommendation, and I'd like to thank the CEO for her service to our community over the short time that she's been here, and hope that that extends into a long time. Having been a councillor with 3 substantive CEOs, you've all been different, all done a good job in your own way. So I think you're probably a councillor for the time as you've turned CEO for the time as you've turned up here. You are being very well received out in the community. So I thank you very much, and I really wish you well. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Muir.
I concur with the sentiments of Councillor Earl. I'm really pleased, I guess, the short amount of time that you've been here. Fantastic. And I guess the real push to engagement with the community and the perspective of community engagement and operations. I really like that lens, and I look forward to the consultation, and the KPIs for the next financial year look really exciting, and I think things look really good for our community and our environment. So thank you for your work.
Any other councillor wish to speak to this? Well, I will, as your representative and the main conduit for council to the Shire President. It really has been a pleasure working with the CEO for the last 12 months. This performance appraisal truly and genuinely reflects her performance. I think, we are, it's been a really great process to get those mutually agreed KPIs. I'm excited by, and very clear on the direction that we've given the CEO on what those priorities are. And, concurring Councillor Earl's comments that, we've had a significant shift in community perception of the Shire, and that is largely related to yourself and your conduct and the way that you are leading this organisation. And it's been, so well received in the community. And that's really pleasing for council to have that, that feedback and that genuine engagement with our community that was really, really needing it. And, there's always room for improvement in all of what we all do. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this and very happy to endorse this recommendation. Councillor, any other councillors wish to speak? Otherwise, yes, Councillor Boland.
I'll just echo the comments of the others. I believe the CEO has performed very well and has deserved the performance appraisal that she got, and we've established some KPIs into the future, which we were able to negotiate quite easily, according to what our consultant told us. That's a good sign for the future. So yes, thank you for her good work, and hopefully into the future.
Now I'm going to do, if no one else wishes to speak, I will just allow the CEO if she wants to say anything. Not really, okay.
Thank you. Just thank you.
She loves being put on the spot. Thank you.
It's probably a team. It is very much
It's a team effort, of course, yes. So, councillors, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. We now move on to item 11.4.1, which is the Coarama Reserve ongoing grounds maintenance. Now, we've had a declaration of interest from Councillor Earl, and that his brother's the president of this Halls Committee, but he wants to participate and can put that aside in this decision-making process. So we have a recommendation there in front of us. Anyone to move that? Councillor Darth and Councillor Earl to second it. Councillor Darth.
Yeah, I'll just move it as it's written. I support this. It's a great report. I support everything that the Shire have put forward in it. I think having community-led stewardship of any of our Shire-owned facilities is a great way forward. So I look forward to hearing how this process goes, and I'm sure we'll see it when it comes back, in September.
Thank you. Councillor Earl.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I very much support the officer's recommendation and look forward to seeing the outcome of it. But I have to say one of the most disappointing things I see tonight is that all the people in the audience, except for an officer over there and my wife sitting here now, and when you look at our agenda tonight, we have got some significant stuff on there, and they all turn up to go on about something that we've actually got nothing to do about, this Narrabeen development. And I wish the people could show that much concern and have that much input around important things like, the Coarama Pool Reserves, which has been in operation as a committee for over 100 years. It'll be the most longest-serving committee and organisation in our Shire. So, who work well. But also all these other things like 60-odd years of the Speedway and going to spend $17 million on the Wadandi track and try to upgrade all the stuff down here for our kids. And they turn up for one little item. And that I have to say, in my time in council, that's a bit frustrating with all that. So, but anyway, this is great, and I'm looking forward to seeing the report out of this, I think, next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Anyone else wish to speak for or against this? Well, I'll just say that I'm pleased to see this as coming to a decision. This is a bit of a bespoke model. I 100% believe that the management of these grounds is best in their hands. They are, they do such a great job, as Councillor Earl said. It's such a, important group of facilities that management there is so well utilised. I'm of the understanding that the group is happy with this proposed motion, which is very important in my decision-making process. So, if that's the case and it's going to work for both parties, for us and for them, doing this job on our behalf effectively, then I'm happy to support it. Let's put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 11.4.2, which is the review of the Sustainable Economy Strategy. Councillors, there is a officer's recommendation in front of us. Do I have someone to move that or something alternatively? Councillor Muir, Councillor Duff to move the officer's recommendation. Councillor Muir.
Yeah, I support this as written, and I'm really hoping that there is the opportunity, I guess, to identify where the gaps are and really narrow the focus to ensure the best possible outcome. I think a review is in order, and I guess it is about scoping what are the issues, what are the problems before coming to a solution. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Duff.
Almost forgot this was on tonight's agenda. It's been so long. So I like to thank the Shire administration for their report on this amendment that I put up at the last meeting. It was a budget item, and just bringing it forward into this financial year. So it's just a cost now rather than later. And that's just so we don't lose any of the momentum that we've had from all the work that's been put into having a sustainable economy strategy and officer for that many years. and then making sure that there's no lag time. And in the report that is identified by the administration that they agree with that position, that it's a good idea to have the continuation. And I really look forward to seeing, as Councillor Muir said, like how we can identify the gaps, what the review on this last strategy was, what worked, what didn't work, and the language of Shire approach. I'm not going to use that as a sticking point, but I look forward to seeing how that is brought back to council as to what approach we're going to take to support our small businesses. Because since the last strategy was written in 2001, we've had quite a large increase in population. I think it's like 16 or 70% of increase in population in the area. And on top of that, we've had the same amount of increase in small businesses. But surprisingly, and which is a real positive for our community, is that there's actually been a larger increase of employment created by the small businesses that have come. So it's only a couple of percent, but that couple of percent may be, 20 jobs for, our young people that we were just, had in here earlier today. So it's definitely a time not to be putting small businesses on the back burner, but really looking at how we can support them, because there has been a bit of a shift there as well.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Do I have any other members who wish to speak to this? Councillor Earl.
Look, I support the recommendation. I'd like to thank Saul for his input in this over the time, but I think as you're going forward as a new council next year, let's drop out the sustainable economy part. I'm called an economic strategy or whatever you're going to do, because all the stuff that we do these days, those of us in business, we've got to be sustainable. We're trying to be sustainable for the environment. We've got to be sustainable for your business as well. So otherwise you won't be there to help the environment and all the other stuff. So I think there's an opportunity to take some of those words out, and I guess it's a bit like the agricultural type stuff. You keep chucking that regenerative agriculture stuff, and then it irritates them, even though that's what they do anyway. There's an appearance that this is what the new age people are doing, and so some of this you take out, you just go back and you actually appeal to a broader section of the community, and so that'll be down to the new council to do. But thanks for everything.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do any other members wish to speak for or against this item? Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We now are on to 11.4.3, which is the holiday parks and campgrounds change of lease terms. We have an officer recommendation there. Do I have someone who wishes to move that, or anything alternative? Councillor Muir, wishing to move that? Okay, and Councillor Keno. Councillor Muir? Councillor Keno? Anyone else wish to speak for or against this? Or I will, in that we did this master plan, and I'm really pleased of this, to have this endorsed master plan. It really gave us a focus at the time of, the future potential, no matter if we had the funds or not, what the focus was for council at the time. I agree that it should be reviewed, and I agree that now is not the time for us to do further capital investment besides that infrastructure requirements that are going on right now. This makes sense to renew those licences. Those people are really, absolutely are very attached to those licences. So why not continue to generate that revenue and provide that opportunity via these site licences if we're not going to do those capital upgrades? So I'm happy with this motion. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, item 13. Motions for consideration at the next meeting. I believe we might have one. Councillor Duff.
It's a shame that the students have gone home, but we just thought that we would respond to their question that they had after having them join us today. And I would like to put up a notice of motion that asks the CEO to prepare a report to council focusing on the Shire's youth traineeships and any opportunities to improve this initiative, including the quantity of places and the nature of the traineeships themselves. Traineeship itself, but maybe put the S on it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Duff. There's no discussion around that, so that will be in the minutes and consideration at the next meeting. Item 14, new business of an urgent nature. As far as I'm aware, there is none, both from members or the CEO. Confidential business, there is none. But before I close the meeting, I will just acknowledge that this is Councillor Earle's last meeting in this chambers, which he has been a part of for a very long time, 16 years. Our next meeting in September is in Augusta. The CEO and I have been obviously trying to organise a farewell thing for you, Councillor Earle, but unfortunately we couldn't do it tonight because the CEO and I have to go and knock on ministers' doors tomorrow morning, first thing in Perth. So we will do something next month before the OCM, the week before likely. Because it's in Augusta, so it might be easier for us to do something on that week before. Councillor Duff is away, of course. So did you wish to make comment?
Just going to say, isn't he a councillor until the 18th of October? Or are you just hanging up your hat at the next meeting?
Sorry, what was that, Councillor Duff?
Isn't he a councillor until the 18th of October?
Absolutely he is.
Yeah, so
yes.
We should have a farewell closer to then.
Oh, okay. Well... Yeah, so that we could have something outside of a council meeting. Just before I let you speak, Councillor Earle, I would also like to acknowledge the woman that stands behind you, but probably mostly in front of you, and has supported you, of course, wholly and so definitively for the last 16 years as your role as an elected member at the Shire of Augusta Margaret River. So thank you, Helen. I know how important it is to have support from your partner and being an elected member. So yes, acknowledging you, Helen, and your contribution to Councillor Earle's contribution to this council over the many years. CG, why is that? Wow, you deserve a medal. Now, Councillor Earle, I'll give you the right to reply.
Thank you very much. I did tell Mr Logan that I wasn't going to let you out here until 5 o'clock, so I've got 15 to 16 minutes. But it shouldn't take that long. But if I get wound up, just throw something at me. I'd like to thank Helen very much for the support that I've had over the 16 years on council, and for the 50 odd years that we've been married through thick and thin, and 3 kids and 8 grandchildren. So, it's a fairly long time. But I'd like to thank all the councillors that I've been part of. I was trying to count the numbers out there, and I had to take my shoes and socks off, so I couldn't quite get that far to work out how many were, but an awful lot over the 16 years, and you all turned up here to do a job and try to improve it, improve the place, and give support to the staff. And I particularly like to thank the staff for the friendship, I guess, is what I've seen out of the most of the people in this place over my 16 years. There's so many really good people working in here, and you don't always get the plaudits from the people of the community. But I hope that over that time that I've been able to back us up and say well done to you, or stamp on the toes of some of the people who have been trying to be whatever they're trying to be. I don't know what, but a little bit of honey goes a lot further than a handful of crap. I'd also like to thank the 3 substantive CEOs that we've had. So I came in here when Gary Eversher was the CEO, Gary was a CEO for the time. It was a time of probably redevelopment. This place here, there's some very good decisions probably were made just before I got onto council. One was to sell the old Shire Chambers to Woolworths, because that was rubbish over there. Well, another really good environmental thing that probably nobody really remembers at all, but through Wayne Pragnell, was putting the grey water on the oval out here and through to the golf course and around to the schools. You imagine what Margaret River would be like now if we didn't have the grey water. Because I doubt that we'd be able to take the water out of the river anymore. Certainly in a year like last year, there'd be a lot of pressure on us and the amount of water. So sometimes I think as councillors we need to look back at the little things that have done at the time that have really made a difference. we were fortunate. The other good decision was probably the Liberals got in by about a vote, and the Nationals backed them, and I think that was a couple of years before, and that was with royalties to region, and certainly Gary had a hand in the pocket of the government to pull a lot of funds out for us to get some of the projects that we've done. And I won't elaborate on all the projects. Most of you here would know, but there's things in Augusta and things up here, and certainly next door here, and at the end of the day, Gary became a very good friend. I actually bought his caravan. We bought his caravan off him, and we're heading off next week to travel up to have a look at the flowers. And then Steph came along, and she was a different kettle of fish as a CEO, but she worked really hard to sort out the issues here around the heart at the time. And again, I was Shire President at the time, which, and I have to say, the 4 years as Shire President, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But the last two were pretty stressful because that was during COVID. But I thought as a council at the time, we managed COVID very well for our community. It was Steph's idea for us to put up $1 million out of a fund to support the community. I got all the applause because my idea was to make it $2 million, Steph. You don't have to spend it all, and we didn't. But I thought that the figure at the time was significant. It was probably the most significant of any council across the state, certainly early on, to try and support their community. And I thought, as a community, we worked really hard, as a council, as the administration, as all the workers out there, but also our community out there, because we actually live in a really great community. And I thought everybody worked really well to try and make, get us through the war that we were having with something we couldn't see and didn't know what it was. It was a really challenging time for all of us. I've got other stories I'll tell you other days about having mother-in-laws and things like that at home. But she agrees. So we got through that, and certainly with respect to the heart, I don't think the council could ever have just handed that straight over to Augusta Margaret. As much as people in the community were bagging the crap out of the people working in there, we couldn't do that. We worked through that, and we got to a position where this is now really well received by our community. But we could have sent Augusta Margaret a break. I guess the other job that we did, and the staff worked really hard on, was we started with the Main Street upgrade. It's hard work on the businesses down the Main Street, but anyway, you've got to put up with some trouble sometime. Will. But we made the decision to push on, and then to push on and get the damn job done in that year. And I think that was probably one of the really good decisions that we made as a council, as a group, that this has to get done. And everybody worked really hard to get it done. And plaudits to all of those that had parts in that. Can you imagine Margaret now without the Main Street? But with the Main Street, if we didn't have the perimeter roads, that was another job. Yesterday's traffic would still be coming through tomorrow. So that's how bad it was. But in my time, I look at all of the things in 16 years that we've actually achieved here as a council with the upgrades and bits and pieces. There's an awful lot still to be done, which the next councils will need to get on with. But you need to do them. But my advice to you is, if you're going to put a job up there and try and get it done, make sure you get enough money for it. And if they come back and say we need another couple of $100,000, give them the couple of $100,000, get the job finished, like we did with the swimming pool. If we hadn't done the toilet blocks up, it wouldn't matter how good the rest of the place was. We'd have been bagged for the rest of our lives on that job. So that's the stuff. Finish, get the jobs finished, because the opportunity to get back. But in all of that, thank you very much, everyone, for the time. I've actually thoroughly enjoyed my 16 years. Not all the time. You can't enjoy it all the time. I'll give you the tip. Sometimes I've got to listen to Mr. McLeod talk. He's yawning down the back too. Have a look at look at that. But I like the passion of the council. I like the passion of the staff and the CEOs and all of you. So thank you very much for the time. I might say a couple of words in Augusta, but again, probably nobody will bloody turn up down there either, and this is something controversial on. So, yeah. And to all the people who've turned up here to listen to me tonight, thank you very much.
Right, councillors, we've got 9 minutes to drag this out till 5 o'clock? No, not really. Let's close the meeting at 4:52. Thank you, everybody.